Don't you know that you so wrong, man? You're wrong and here's why. Chris and Greg don't see eye to eye, like none of the time. Robert Covington stinks. I don't care what you think. How is LeBron James the king when he's ruining teams? You're wrong and here's why. Underdog Sports presents. You're wrong and here's why. Underdog Sports presents. Let's go.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of You're Wrong and Here's Why. Chris Forwardell joined by Greg Crone. Gregory, how are you?
I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
I miss the NFL. The days in between games are the biggest bummers. It's the Tuesday, Wednesday, like those 2 days are the toughest to get through. Like I can live on Fridays with just college or whatever games on. The Big Ten's trying to sneak games in on Friday nights that aren't really good, but they're kind of fun to watch. But having the NFL back is just phenomenal.
Greg, I'd like to make an announcement right now.
Okay.
I'm not planning on reporting to training camp, and I accept that I'm going to be fine.
How dare you? How dare you try to ruin my good name and my good mood with this debacle that is developed in Camden.
I know that I've heard the rumors. There's going to be groups of people organized to boo me as I go into the facility. And I don't want to put up with that.
I have never in my life heard of something less true than that.
Yeah, for sure.
What? Like, I mean...
It does kind of feel like a WIP thing, though, right? It feels like the Dirty 30 or whatever going up to the draft and booing Donovan McNabb. Sure,
yes. Has Philadelphia done something dumb like that before? But they did not go there with the intent to boo.
Yes, they did.
They were at the draft. The pick was made. They didn't like it. They booed. No,
revisionist history, Gregory.
How dare you?
Go ahead and Google that, WIP Dirty 30. They 100%, they bust those people up there all together to whine about not drafting Ricky Williams.
And how did that work out for them?
Donovan McNabb was arguably the best quarterback in franchise history.
Not arguably. It's not arguable. He is the best quarterback in franchise history. There is no arguable. You could say...
Bubby Brister. 2 words. Bubby Brister.
Listen, can you combine Ty and Koy Detmer? If you can there, then maybe you have an argument. But...
Yeah, and a quarterback that can throw the ball 35 yards.
Just astonishing development. You're just going to be like, I'm not showing up. I'm just not going to do it. I know you owe me $140 million. I don't care.
I do owe you $140 million.
If only. I mean, I saw that news break and it was like, really? Really? Mm-hmm. Like, you don't want to be a part of some made-up scenario where people are going to drive to Camden to boo you. For what? What would that accomplish? What would that
I've been to that facility. It's a very nice facility. So at least they have that going for you.
But you're just standing outside booing someone as they walk into practice. No one's doing that.
I would love to say that's true. I can't totally rule it out.
For a fan base that did nothing but support you, and now obviously things... as the years have transpired and things it just happens and the fan base becomes divided and now pretty much everybody hates you. You've officially gone to that side of the wall. And
okay, I feel like at this point, just in case people don't know what we're talking about, because you're saying that everyone hates me and that I owe you $140 million quite a bit. We are talking about the Ben Simmons situation, but I don't know that it's going to be healthy for us to continue in talking about that. And there's going to be plenty more that's going to develop over the next couple of weeks. So let's talk about what we have in front of us. I've got BovadaSportsbook.com open. We have got all of the lines for Week 3 in the National Football League. It's so crazy to me that after all of that time it took, it feels like football season takes years to get here. And somehow we already find ourselves at Week 3.
Dude, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Like just how fast the actual season goes.
Yeah.
Because there is no breaks. It's just, here we go. Well, in this case now, it's 18 straight weeks of NFL Sundays. And like by the time you hit December, you're like, oh man, we have like 4 Sundays left of full slate football, and it's just misery. Like when you get to that, like the games are fun. Obviously, as you get into the playoffs, they're typically more competitive, and you get a ton of fun games. But you just have that sinking feeling, like, oh no, we're about to be in baseball hell very shortly. Like,
well, there are 3 words that I think upset every football fan, and that is Pro Bowl week.
Ugh, misery. They have to figure out a way to make the Pro Bowl semi-entertaining. Like, it's not even fun. Like, if you're a gambler, it's not even fun to bet on.
You can't bet on the Pro Bowl
because
you can't.
It's just
you don't know who's going to care. It's completely random.
Yeah, it's you're shooting darts at that point. It's just terrible.
Not really. Darts, you have some modicum of control.
It depends on how bad of a dart player you are.
That's accurate. But if you're a terrible dart player, you probably shouldn't be gambling on darts. I'm just saying
it's a good point.
There's degenerate and there's degenerate. And I feel like, hey, I'm a pretty terrible dartsmith. Let's throw 500 on this match.
Yeah, I could. Dartsmith got me. I don't have anything. I don't know how to respond to Dartsmith because I don't. Is it Dart? I guess I'm gonna go.
It's definitely not.
Dartsman,
100%.
A dartman, a darter. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Regardless, the Pro Bowl stinks and it's so boring. And even like when they did it after the Super Bowl, even then was like, ugh. Like
the season's over. Who cares?
We're hanging on to trying to get one more week of ratings for the NFL. It's not happening. I don't ever remember it being entertaining, though.
It is not.
Yeah.
There's never been a moment when it was. Speaking of darts, coincidentally, I can't remember. What's your stance on the program that is Ted Lasso?
I've never seen it. And now
Gregory.
It's a program. It's a program that we have discussed in my household many a time. But here's Gregory. The issue, Chris.
Yeah, tell me.
Sports is the issue.
It doesn't matter.
They're always on. Tuesday nights, I do this. Well, whenever I re-record it, but you know what I mean. Then another night of the week, I have to record Better to Light. And then at that point, now we're into the weekend, essentially. So there's not a lot of time to sit around and just be watching television shows that aren't live sports. I don't know what to tell you.
But yet you watch like half a season of Taxi.
I mean, that's on during the day in the background. If I'm going to watch a new show, I have to pay attention to it. Like,
you need to watch Ted Lasso, Greg.
It's on the list. There's a long list.
No, it needs to be at the top of the list. Ted Lasso is my favorite new show of the last 5 years. And I don't think it's particularly close.
I mean, it's certainly intriguing.
You do not have to care about soccer, as I do not, to thoroughly enjoy it. To put this in perspective, one of my great pleasures in life is telling Alexa she's going to like a show. And she fights me tooth and nail on it. 30 Rock is the greatest example of this that went wrong. I told her, you're going to love it. It's so good. I got her to watch Parks and Rec. I got her to watch, the League, stuff like that.
The League.
And I thought 30 Rock was going to be next on that. She hated it. But I got her, loves Parks and Rec, loves the other stuff. I was telling her forever, hey, you just try Ted Lasso. No, I hate soccer. Who cares? I don't care about it. Now it's, hey, what do you want to watch tonight? Ted Lasso. Done. Beginning and end. It's Ted Lasso.
I mean, listen, I mean, it has all the elements of a show that I would like. I like the creator, Bill Lawrence. Big fan of him. Big fan of Scrubs, Drew Carey show. Not so much Cougar Town. Not really into Cougar Town, but you know what I mean. I like his shows, so it hits that. And then, Sudeikis is fine, and everybody says it's great, and I'm sure it is. It's a matter of there's only so many hours in the day, Chris. That's what it is.
Look, when you're sitting there doing busy work,
right?
Give it 2 episodes.
But I can't. The problem is I can't watch things without my wife. You know what I mean? If I sat there and turned it on without her, and she came into the room and be like, "What are you doing?" I thought we talked about this, and it just doesn't work out during the day. She's just working, doing things.
All right, good. Well, when you're ready to go to bed, just put an episode on.
We'll see.
Put an episode on. and then watch the second one and the third one. I watched the entire season of the entire first season of Ted Lasso in one day, and I never do that.
I mean, aren't they like half an hour, 35-minute episodes?
They're like 30 minutes, yeah, but I'm not a sit there and watch 10 episodes in a row of anything kind of person. I stayed up till like 1 o'clock to watch this.
Prior to Children, I was big. Like I remember when we rewatched The Wire, we watched The Wire.
Oh, so good.
For the first time. I would have I'd have a crazy commute and not a lot of time. It'd be like, I have to get up at 5 to leave, or get up at 5 to be able to leave at 6 to get to work at 7.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1 o'clock. Yeah, throw one more on, and that's the type of person I was in terms of
rest in peace, Michael K. Williams.
Sure, I agree with that. But then once you throw kids into the mix, Chris, let me tell you about it. Let me tell you about a kid's show.
Tell me.
How many times have you seen the Paw Patrol movie? Because I've seen it.
I think like 30.
30. Wow. That's child's play. I've watched this thing at least 75 times.
It's literally on right now on one of my monitors.
It wouldn't surprise me. This thing...
Wait, it wouldn't surprise you if I was watching Paw Patrol right now?
I guess it would surprise me, is what I meant to say. But no, it's like we try to limit them to watching TV.
Yeah.
So when it goes on, it's like they want to watch something that they like, and they always gravitate to something 1,000 times. I've seen Trolls World Tour more times than any human should have ever watched Trolls World Tour.
I would argue that was one full time.
I mean, yeah, it's a long one, and I've also never been allowed to watch Cars 2 or 3. I've only seen Cars 1 because we don't watch anything. But if we're gonna watch Cars, it's Cars 1 and then Cars 1 only. Nothing.
If I remember correctly, Cars 2 kind of trash.
That's what I hear.
Cars 3 makes a little bit of a comeback.
Yeah, I hear Cars 2 not great, but I wouldn't know.
I have Mole in my Plex, Gregory. Feel free to watch them at any time.
That's something we're throwing that on in the background is great, and I'd like to do things like that. But then, I get fixated on things. Things happen. Norm Macdonald dies. Then I got to watch Dirty Work. Like, it just, like, that night's out the window. I have no other options. I'm watching Dirty Work because that's what is in my head for the rest of the day. Could I have watched 2 episodes of Ted Lasso in that time? Probably. Or I could watch a movie I've seen 100 times. I have Beer League ready. Whenever Artie Lang finally goes, I'll throw that on. I mean, I'd watch that even without it. I hope it's years and years down the line, because it's an excellent movie, but...
This took a dark turn.
You know what I mean. It's just an example of another guy in
waiting on Artie to go so we can watch Beer League.
I mean, I watch Beer League all the time, but my point is that, like, those are the kind of things, like, things happen during the day, and all of a sudden I'm like, I should go back and watch, 7 episodes of How I Met Your Mother for some reason and pretend I'm going to do a rewatch that ends after one night. I did that with 30 Rock. I did that with 30 Rock like a month ago. A month ago, it was right before.
Well, Greg, what do you have for Willie Garson? Because apparently Willie Garson just died.
Who's Willie Garson? Isn't he the bald guy from Sex and the City?
And more importantly, he is the best friend on White Collar.
That's terrible. R.I.P.
What do you got teed up for Willie Garson?
I mean, I'm gonna have to go on HBO Max and watch Sex and the City 1 and 2. Never seen.
No, stop. Don't do that. Don't.
I'm just
have
kidding.
some dignity, Gregory.
I would never. But no, like I'll hear a name. I'll be listening to a podcast. Somebody will say something, and all of a sudden it's like, yes, I do need to pretend I'm going to do that. I did it with 30 Rock. I was like, let me give it a try for the second or third time. I got like 6 episodes in one night because they're only like 22 minutes. So if I'm doing stuff on my computer, I can have it on, kind of sitting there, half paying attention, and then never revisit it. Just never go back to it.
Here you go. If you want to show some respect to Willie Garson this evening, I think the best option that you can do is watch his episode of Girl Meets World.
Yeah, Girl Meets World is a show that I wanted to be good. The issue is you just age out of things, right?
Yeah. Look, I'm tickled to talk about this stuff in a normal situation, Gregory. But we can't dig too far into this. Also, he's in Fever Pitch. That might be the best choice.
Probably.
Or House of D. We need to talk about football.
Yeah, we should.
In the National Football League, instead of talking about what Willie Garson may or may not be in, including Freaky Friday.
Ooh. All right. Now we're getting back into the wheelhouse. I will say, in terms of football, like, It's just every I don't know how the NFL does it. Everything seems to be so entertaining. Like no matter what game, that Giants Redskins game, or Washington football team, I will never not accidentally do that when not paying attention. But that Giants football team game was absolutely insane. Not good. I wouldn't say good. I wouldn't necessarily quantify it as good. But the entertainment level of it, like I was hooked for 4 straight quarters. It was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, football has been very good this year. We'll see if that continues this week as the Carolina Panthers head to Houston to take on, Davis Mills and those Houston Texans. Bovada has the Texans +8 at home.
I don't know what Panthers show up. So, like, the Panthers beat the Jets. Sure.
Yeah.
The Jets clearly stink. What's the guy's name who went 2 overall? Zach Wilson. Couldn't think of the last name. Zach Wilson struggles in week 2.
That's an understatement. 4 interceptions.
Weird.
In fact, his 4 interceptions in his first 10 passes or something like that, including his first 2.
I'm ready to hang the bust. Ring right around that Zach Wilson.
Stop it.
Circle that one. It's okay. Told you way before the draft not to trust that one.
I stand by Zach Wilson might end up being better than Trevor Lawrence.
I mean, that's fine. It's perfectly fine. They're both on awful franchises that'll tank their careers, so it really doesn't matter.
But at some point, much like the gentleman who was playing the Texans this week, you get to leave that team, and now Sam Darnold gets a chance to go 3-0.
Well, so here's my point. How good are the Panthers really? Like, I stand by this, right? So if you're doing football math, the Panthers beat the Jets. The Saints beat the Packers. The Packers or the Panthers then beat the Saints. But the Packers clearly, I mean, I said this last week, I think, on this show. Aaron Rodgers was literally toying with the Packers last week when they played the Saints. He was literally showing them what life after Aaron Rodgers looks like if you're a Packer fan, if you're a Packer front office person, if you're a Packer coach. What we saw last night, Monday night, was Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers again. Now I know it's Detroit, but Detroit put up a fight early on. And then Aaron Rodgers did what Aaron Rodgers does. Almost ruined my life in terms of fantasy.
Detroit might just stink, though.
But they're all, of course. But that's my point is that we don't necessarily know. We don't necessarily know if the Panthers beating the Saints is as good of a win as them beating the Saints beating the Packers 38-3 looks. Like, you know what I mean?
No, it's probably not. The Saints were a little bit overrated coming off of that win. You're right. Maybe Aaron Rodgers wasn't the most interested he's ever been. But the team's 2-0. They're playing a bad Texans team this week. Sam Darnold looks good. McCaffrey is on the team still. He's getting his touches.
I mean, and getting pummeled.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. But Sammy D looks good. DJ Moore's playing well. I buy this team.
They're very good. Matt Rule's a good football coach. He has been good everywhere he went. I mean, obviously, you have the stop-off to try to rectify the craziness at Baylor. But even towards the end there, he had them looking like a football team again. Not a good one, but a football team. But Matt Rule's a good coach, and if you put the game plans out there, you still have NFL caliber players, and they have, again, McCaffrey obviously is a superstar if he's healthy. And they have some receiver talent. They're a team that could make noise for sure. I think this is, again, a tough game to judge because the Texans are the Texans. Like, they looked great, but now we have Davis Mills. I have to imagine, and this seems very obvious, like it's almost too obvious of a pick, that it has to be the Panthers in this situation. I don't necessarily know if the Panthers are going to contend for the NFC South. But,
probably not.
Yeah, but I mean, I just can't believe in the Texans for much longer.
No, the Texans, look, I think they looked better than they were last week. I think the Browns got so up for that game against the Chiefs and then kind of took the Texans for granted.
Yeah, sort of a look-ahead game to get past them. I could definitely see that. I mean,
Also, if I'm a Panthers fan, I'm concerned about the fact that McCaffrey has 60 touches through 2 games already.
Oh, and the fact that he had to go to the locker room in the middle of the last game, yeah,
not ideal. Yeah, not ideal.
I mean, if it was just cramping, then it's fine. But I mean, like 60 touches is far too many touches. It just is. Like you can't just keep doing that. Use your other weapons. Maybe mix in a Chuba Hubbard carry every once in a while.
Isn't it Chuba Hubbard?
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Pretty sure it does to him.
Well, it might to him. You're right. Chuba Hubbard. It was. I mean, for 3 years at Oklahoma State, it was Chuba Hubbard. Then it switched to Chuba senior year, and I guess now it's Chuba. I don't know. I can't keep track.
Oh, you mean like Tyler Herro?
I don't even know who you're talking. Oh, Tyler Herro. Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Look, I like the branding. If my name was anything close to that, I'd be pronouncing it Hero too. I'm just saying he wasn't in high school.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Where's your pick here?
I got to go Panthers. I just don't trust the Texans enough, and I think the Panthers are a good team, backup quarterback. Can't.
All right. The Arizona Cardinals head to Jacksonville to take on Trevor Lawrence in those Jacksonville Jaguars. Bovada has the Jags, another big home dog, plus 7.5.
I mean, absolute gutsy performance from the Cardinals after just coming out as flat as you could against the Vikings. I mean, they looked miserable early on, and then Kyler did Kyler things. He found Hopkins. He found the kid from Purdue. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I can't think of his name.
Rondale Moore.
Yeah, and despite
Rondale Moore, 7 catches for $114, including a 77-yard completion.
Yeah, despite the fact that he fumbled the ball through the back of the end zone on what would have been a touchdown, Rondale Moore was an electric factory. I mean, this was a great team win against the team that can hang offensively with pretty much anybody when it comes to the Vikings and all of their talent. So, I mean, to me, I have to take the Cardinals because the Jaguars just look bad. And they're putting out weird tweets about, hey, we still have 15 more games left. Like, it's a bizarre thing. Like, don't give up on us or whatever that weird thing was. They're just all out of sorts. Their defense stinks. They don't use James Robinson was so dynamic last year, and maybe part of it's scheming against him and things like that. And it's obviously a different offense, it's a different coaching staff, etc. But I mean, get the ball in the guy's hands. I think he touched the ball 6 times or 8 times last week. That is not enough for a guy that is as talented as him and proved that he could be that talented last year. So I know you want to showcase Lawrence and allow him to take over this team, but use the guys that you have at your disposal. You don't have to throw it 1,000,000 times every week.
Yeah, 11 carries and 3 receptions for Robinson last week. Can I tell you, I thought he was a little bit overrated last year.
I mean, yeah,
he really did.
I mean, he probably was. You talk about a lot of garbage time stuff, and any time a team goes 1-15, so
right.
I'm sure that plays into it. But I mean, at least do something. At least do something with him.
Great. The Atlanta Falcons head to New York to take on the New York Football Giants, and Bovada has the Giants, our first home favorite, -3.
This is, I mean, you want to talk about a matchup I could never even consider watching, and I know it'll be like a local game for just the market that I'm in, which is why Red Zone will just have to stay on. But
I love some Red Zone.
I mean, it's the best. Red Zone is the best invention of all time. To not have it on next to the game that you're actually watching, in terms of if the Eagles are on, obviously, but then if any of the other games are on that are entertaining, to not have it is crazy. It changes the way you take in football, and you're able to stay up to date on a lot of what's going on during the day. And if you play fantasy, you have to have Red Zone. It's mandatory. But regardless, the Falcons just imploded. They imploded offensively. You can't even say defensively because their defense, while bad, at least kept them semi-competent as the game went on and allowed them to come back and make it close. And then the offense turns it over for defensive scores on almost back-to-back plays. That's insanity. It's really bad. It's really bad, and I don't know if it gets better. It probably does against the Giants, who clearly stink. Like and whatever, I don't know. I saw on Twitter that they said like, oh, Dexter Lawrence wasn't offside, but he was offside. And then the league apologized. They were like, I don't even know what's true and what's not. But he certainly looked offsides. I don't know if you see the replay, like it's very close. But it looks like he's offsides. But they just like I can't get overhyped about Daniel Jones looking all right in a game where they're playing the football team, who's clearly not as good as they were last year. Their defense is not as good as it was the year previously, at least not yet. And like. You got guys dropping wide open touchdown passes to seal games.
Yeah.
Hey, how does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Daniel Jones looking kind of good. Yeah, he was pretty all right. Is the way I would describe Daniel Jones. 22 of 32, 249 yards, touchdown, no picks. Better than Matt Ryan, who managed to turn the ball over 3 times through the air. But man, I'm worried about that Falcons defense. I think they might just be... I think the hat's in the ring for the worst defense in the NFL this year. I know it's Tom Brady, but Brady goes for a very easy 5 touchdowns against them and through the air. What do we think of Saquon? How do we feel about Saquon 2 games back?
I know that seems to be the big conversation. At least it was, Thursday into Friday. Mm-hmm. I think you got to give him time. Like he was so good prior to that injury, and he's playing behind an offensive line that's not great, which is difficult. Now, I know, like, when you look at replays and you look at highlights and things like that, he's not hitting the hole the same, but some of that comes with live game reps. You can only practice and rehab so much to where it seems like where it's just not real experience, and you kind of just need that. He's one big game away. Maybe it's this week against the Falcons, from turning everybody's perception sort of back to like, oh no, he's still very good. Was he worth the number 2 overall pick? Never. Like never. And that's coming from a Penn State guy. Like you just can't. You can't draft running backs that high. It's not worth it.
Well, the whole talk from Gettleman was, we're looking for a guy that can can win a gold jacket. If that's the case, Quentin Nelson was the pick. You take that guy in the middle of your offensive line for a decade, and everybody's going to look better.
Hall of Fame running backs are very, very rare. They just, like, there's... I can't name the last one that went in. Was it Priest Holmes? Was he the last one that went in? Like, that feels ridiculous to say, but I literally can't think of the last running back that went in the NFL Hall of Fame from, like, a modern era kind of person. And that wasn't, like, Emmitt Smith. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was...
Tomlinson, maybe?
No. I think it was He Hate Me.
Oh, if only. Rod Smart.
Did he make it? I was trying to think of a...
NFL legend.
Who was the kind of like Samoan running back that we had?
Oh, Reno Mahe.
Yeah, Reno Mahe is the name I was trying to come up with. Thank you, but I did not, and I let the whole team down. Up next... The Baltimore Ravens head to Detroit to take on the Detroit Lions. Another big line here. Lions +8 at home.
Who is it they're playing?
The Detroit Lions, Gregory.
No. The Lions are playing who?
The Baltimore Ravens.
Ugh, man. I mean, I understand what happened on Sunday Night Football. I watched that entire game essentially from the beginning of it all the way through to the end. And to me, that game was lost by the Chiefs more than it was won by the Ravens, if that makes sense. And obviously,
for sure.
Everybody looks at that fumble by Edwards-Helaire towards the end, and that obviously cost them the game. But that's what you get for going too conservative and being too cute with things. Play your normal offense. Like, don't go overboard. Tell Pat, if the window's not there, don't throw it. But like, don't get too like, oh, we're gonna hold this, kick a 47-yard field goal. We're gonna kill 2 minutes off the clock. That feels wildly unnecessary to try to do that. I know you want to limit time and everything, but and then it's impossible to judge the Lions because the Lions in the first half yesterday looked really, really good, and then halftime adjustments came and they stayed at 17 points which hurt a lot of people's team total over-unders.
I'm sorry that happened to you.
Not me, but a few members of Bettor's Delight were livid at one Jared Goff and Dan Campbell. Just terrible to not be able to score any points in that second half. If you're somebody who was on that, but I don't necessarily know what to think about the Ravens. They obviously can run the ball. Passing, it looks all right. Lamar had that cool jump pass, but I still don't know. It's a lot at home. I kind of like the Lions in that situation.
Okay. Yeah, that cool jump pass.
I mean, I've never seen like you see the jump passes, like you've seen them in the past with like Tim Tebow when he was at Florida, and there's obviously been other teams that ran a little jump pass thing. But that
jump pass offense.
Well, for him to throw it as far as he did in the air while doing the jump was incredible. I can't do that. I don't know many people who can.
I'm going to start the jump pass challenge on pick your social media platform. Yeah, sure.
It works.
It's going to be exciting. The Chicago Bears head to Cleveland to take on the Cleveland Browns, and Bovada has the Browns -7 at home.
And they haven't confirmed if it's Fields yet, right?
They have said it is Dalton if he's healthy.
Yeah, which, I mean, guys.
I thought I saw that it was going to be Dalton, but I might be totally making that up.
No, I think you're right, because I had definitely seen the if healthy Andy Dalton as our starter. But what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? I know you're delaying the inevitable at this point. Like, this sitting behind Andy Dalton is great. It's fine, but like, it just doesn't make sense at a certain point. Play the young guy. Just do it. That's the best way for anybody to learn. You learn by doing. Learn by doing. To quote Turk from Scrubs, learn by doing. They got to get Justin Fields on there. He just makes the Bears offense so much more dynamic and different. And not that Dalton's been bad, because he hasn't really been terrible. He's been Andy Dalton. It's what he's been. A very, middle of the road starting quarterback. And it's hard for me to think anything else of Andy Dalton. But they're going into Cleveland.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And I know their defense looked good against Cincinnati last week, but that run game from Cleveland it just causes problems for everybody. Thank God Baker didn't stay down after that very scary looking left shoulder issue, trying to make a tackle.
There was some yelling in this household.
Yeah, don't do that again. Especially I can imagine as having a Browns fan in your home, there had to be that was probably upsetting.
For sure. Although Baker Mayfield is like 41 of 50 or something, 41 of 49 through the air so far this year, completing almost 82% of his passes.
Yeah, I mean he's been
without Mr. Beckham.
When you have the run game going, which they seem to do every week, it sets up the offense to be able to have Baker get time to throw the ball because they have to constantly worry about the run. So, like that, if you can keep that up, that is the type of offense that wins in the playoffs too. So, I mean, I like this Browns team. I like how they've started. They faced a little bit of adversity against the Texans. I know they lost week 1 against the Chiefs. That's sort of a learning experience kind of thing. I like the Browns in this situation. I just do. I don't trust the Bears at all right now.
No, I think that's 100% right. The Cincinnati Bengals head to Pittsburgh to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bovada has the Steelers -3.5.
Shout out Mark for bullying me into Raiders money line last week against the Steelers. Much appreciated.
No, that'll be taken out.
The Steelers, they're so perplexing, and like if TJ Watt is still out, that changes their defense so drastically. Like they can't get it anywhere near as much pressure on the quarterback without having to blitz. Big Ben looks old. He really does, and
petty, by the way.
What do you mean?
He's taking shots at offensive coordinator Matt Canada.
Well, he's always done that though, so. That doesn't surprise me. Didn't he almost fight the dude who used to coach the Cardinals?
I don't know who you're talking about, but it has to be Todd Haley.
Yep, that's who it is. Todd Haley. That's exactly who it is.
A lot of people almost fought Todd Haley.
Yeah, so I think I don't think that's anything new. Ben criticizing coaching when he struggles. So, but their offense isn't in sync. It really feels a lot like last year, where they at times looked really bad, and then all of a sudden it like came to life again, and they actually, looked like a competent football team. So we'll see. If there was ever a get-right game, you're getting Burrow, who had a down week, and Ja'Marr Chase is really, really good, but there's no offensive line to protect Burrow, like, at all. It's constantly under pressure, never comfortable. It's a tough one there for Burrow in Cincinnati. So I kind of like the Steelers here.
Jacob Eason and those Indianapolis Colts head to Tennessee to take on the Tennessee Titans. Bovada has the Titans -5.5.
I mean, was there anything more of a lock this season than Carson Wentz getting hurt and missing time?
Yeah, Jason Peters getting hurt and missing time.
That's a good point. I mean,
also Brandon Brooks.
Accurate. I don't know what the Colts. The Colts are so unbelievable. They're 0-2, but like, they've been in both games, but now you lose Wentz. It's like, why can that dude not stay healthy? It's just the way he plays. It has to be.
And it's always something weird, though.
Well, he has, isn't it both ankles?
Yes, I saw a longtime football reporter say this is the first time in history that he's ever seen a guy sprain 2 ankles in the same play.
It's just bizarre. It's like the most bizarre injuries possible happened to this dude.
And by the way, he has still not been ruled out this weekend.
I mean, he's going to have to just push through it. He's going to push through it. He's going to get right with, I don't know, God, I guess, and figure it out. That's just how Carson Wentz operates, which is fine. That's perfectly fine. But my guess is he's going to get hurt again, and we're just going to keep losing snap counts.
Well, I mean, luckily I think Eason only played 5 snaps at the end of that game.
So he threw an interception in one of those 5 snaps.
But just the sheer numbers aspect that we're interested in. So I'm not super worried about that. We just, yeah. The injuries to Wentz are just fascinating. Like, I had never seen a guy tear up his knee again, like Wentz did against the Rams. That's typically a non-contact injury. He got hit in the air and somehow tore it up.
He got hit diving straight forward. It's not even
it's so weird.
The one that comes to mind all the time when you talk about like a contact style injury on a play like that is the Willis McGahee National Championship one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the one that I always think about when you think about somebody like getting hit directly in the knee. His didn't even look like that. Why is everything so weird with that guy?
I don't know.
I don't understand it. And also the Titans, I mean, I guess they figured it out. Just keep giving Derrick Henry the ball until he eventually tries to kill me in fantasy when I play him. No matter what, every time I go against him in fantasy, dude sets. It was his second best career game fantasy-wise. The guy's an absolute beast. The league stole a touchdown from Julio Jones. Very upset about that still, as someone who may or may not have had him as an anytime touchdown scorer in that game. I feel very, very betrayed by the replay officials, and from fantasy perspective as well, because he is on a couple different teams. It's just like the Titans needed that more than the Seahawks did. So, like, if you're a Titans fan, that win is huge. I don't necessarily know how much it sets back the Seahawks. Obviously, they're in a really tight division and a very good one, but they still looked very, very good in terms of what their offense can do and things like that.
Well, this Titans team, for as bad as they looked week 1, they looked exactly like I think they wanted to week 2. Tannehill throws for 348. Derrick Henry, 35 carries for 182 yards and 3 scores. And Julio Jones, by the way, Henry also had 6 catches, 41 touches for Derrick Henry. And Julio Jones goes for $128. That's exactly what they want that offense to look like. Maybe just with 30 touches from Henry instead of 41.
Oh, yeah, and you think about it, like, A.J. Brown had a very off week. like a very down week. So
did his college teammate DK Metcalf.
Yeah. So like that's a team that if you're the Titans, that is the perfect game, except maybe you want to get AJ Brown just a tiny bit more involved and get him the ball. But being able to just use Derrick Henry as your bell cow. I don't understand. Like, it's coming and there's nothing you can do about it on defense in terms of Henry, especially when it comes to short yardage. It's why week 1 was so surprising and how well Arizona was able to keep him back. What does that mean for Taylor Lewan? Think about that, though. He was a late scratch on that offensive line pregame, and then all of a sudden Derrick Henry goes for like what would you say, 183 on the ground? 185 on the ground. Like, you have to.
I think those two things are unrelated.
Sort of a fluke.
Taylor Lewan is really good.
No, I agree. He's very good. It's just an interesting sort of coincidence.
The Los Angeles Chargers head to Kansas City to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. Bovada has the Chiefs -6.5.
Chargers gonna charge as usual. Like, it's they did so much killing of themselves. I don't understand it. It doesn't matter who the coach is, who the quarterback is, it's always the same. It's the same story every single week. They scored the go-ahead touchdown like 3 different times in that game, only to get it called back via penalty. And that game against the Cowboys was not a shootout in any way. Nowhere near what we, I think, expected, right? I still think Herbert's very good. Like, I still think he's really good. I think they have a good team. I think they don't know. They don't necessarily know how to use it. They keep doing this where they just don't know how to use that offense, and they're undisciplined because they're getting dumb penalties, which is a real problem. And like, whether it's taunting, whether it's whatever it is, it's just always weird. Like, they can execute, they can do everything, but then they do that one dumb thing to just kick themselves every single time, and then they give Dallas a win that they didn't necessarily deserve. And the Chiefs, like, I know they lose to Baltimore, but we kind of already covered it. Like, they kind of gave that game away by accident, and I just, it's hard for me to bet against the Chiefs in Arrowhead, and even if it's like a little bit larger of a spread, and it can't be that big. So,
are you happier with how they used Eckler this week? 9 carries, 9 catches.
Yeah, that's exactly what you do with Austin Eckler. That's exactly what you do. You cannot give him like 15 to 20 carries up the middle for no reason. Get him outside. Let him. He made an amazing one-handed catch along the sidelines, and he actually made the catch and then drew a. I guess it's not targeting in the NFL, but it's the personal foul, defenseless receiver hit from Diggs on the Cowboys, and it's like, yeah, that's what he can do if you get him the ball out in space. He can make the outstanding catches. Get him the ball that way. But I like the Chiefs. Patty Mahomes, Andy Reid.
Football's most confusing team, the New Orleans Saints, heads to New England to take on Mac Jones and those New England Patriots. Bovada has the Patriots -3 at home.
I mean, the Jameis Winston for MVP talk certainly went out the window after the performance against Carolina.
No touchdowns, couple of picks.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that team. I really don't. Like, Kamara was almost invisible. Like, it just, like, are the Panthers that good, or is it just the fact that, like, the Saints are, a mediocre team without Drew Brees? Like, does that
Michael Thomas as well?
Well, sure, yeah, Michael Thomas definitely hurts, and like, they don't really have a tight end to speak of, and they really didn't necessarily.
Wait, Juwan Johnson, baby, what do you have? 2 touchdowns week 1?
Yeah. It's one of those flash in the pan weeks. It almost feels like, though. I don't know. The Patriots. Greg,
who do you believe was the Saints' leading receiver in terms of yardage last week?
Last week?
Mm-hmm. Against the Panthers.
Man, is Joe Horn still around?
Joe Horn just missed it by 28 yards. I'll tell you that.
Jesus Christ! Was it Callaway?
Callaway had 2 catches for 8 yards, so he missed it by 19 yards. You're never going to get this. The leading receiver for the team with 1 catch for 27 yards was Lil Jordan Humphrey.
I mean, That is.
And their leading rusher, their top 2 rushers, both quarterbacks. Jameis Winston, 3 carries for 19 yards. Taysom Hill, 2 for 16.
Yeah, it's just not good. That is not a good game. That's
not how you want that to break. I've never once seen it before that in the NFL that a team's top 2 rushers were quarterbacks.
Yeah, that is rough. That is really. I mean, my word. Well, what did the Panthers do?
I don't know.
That's why I don't know how to go into this game with the Patriots, because again, the Patriots beat the Jets, who stink, and the Patriots always beat the Jets. So, like, what do you think of Mac Jones? We don't know yet. You know what I mean? It still seemed like they were kind of relying on a little bit of the running game, opening up a little bit, but not really letting him go out of control in terms of like passing and things like that, which is kind of the Belichick way a little bit. So,
but they were also up early.
Yeah, which helps.
Yeah, and they were just relying on that running game. And with that said, they still only ran the ball 24 times. They threw the ball more than they ran the ball. Mac 22 of 30 for $186. Very game managery.
Yeah.
But it's just that was a quick game without a bunch of possessions.
I liked him in this. I liked him in this game. I don't trust the Saints. I just don't. I don't know. When you throw up that bad of a clunker, like after the first week, like I have zero feel for you. Just zero.
For sure. The Washington football team heads to Buffalo to take on the Buffalo Bills. One of our biggest lines of the week, the Bills favored by 9 at home.
Boy, did the Bills right that ship, huh?
Yes, it did.
I mean, that was an absolute laugher. Obviously, Tua gets hurt, but like that's the Bills we expected to see, week 1. An offense that could move the ball, a defense that was ferocious and forcing turnovers. Like, it was phenomenal if you're a Bills fan. It's exactly the bounce back that you needed. And for Washington, like, you won a game you probably should have lost. You almost cost yourself with the Heineke pick late in the game. It just insanity. But I think Washington without Fitzpatrick and the defense, again, I don't think they're as good as they were last year, regardless of preseason hype. I like the Bills in this situation. I just don't think Washington's that good.
Well, let's talk about Tua Tagovailoa and those Miami Dolphins as they head to Vegas to take on the 2-0 Las Vegas Raiders. Bovada has the Raiders -4.
This is a prime. If Tua's not playing and it's Jacoby Brissett, this is almost a prime game for the Dolphins to win. Like, the Raiders are riding high. They beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh. They're coming back. They're 2-0. They're top of the division. And this is like that weird letdown game. Like, it's just, it makes no sense on the schedule when you look at it. It's like when the Eagles beat the 49ers last year. They had zero reason to beat them on Sunday Night Football, and they were giant underdogs, but it ended up happening anyway. The Raiders also have potential for a look ahead in the fact that they have the Chargers the week after. Derek Carr has been so good. Tua, I mean, because Brissett looked bad. Brissett looked bad in the time that he came in, but that game was already like a little bit wonky when he came into it. So
yeah, 24-40 for Brissett, 1 of 4 for Tua, who is day to day.
I think it'll be Tua that starts, but we'll see how it goes. If he does take a big hit and re-injures anything, I'm sure he'll have like an armored vest on to protect those ribs. But I kind of like the Dolphins regardless. This feels like a letdown game for the Raiders. Such high emotion. You beat the Ravens, then you ride into Pittsburgh, you beat them, and now you're like, here we go. We have, the division next week. Let's go. And then you lay like sort of an egg against a Dolphins team that is sort of listless.
Excellent word usage, Gregory. Excellent word usage. Our biggest line of the week here, the New York Football Jets head to Denver to take on the Denver Broncos. Bovada has the Broncos -10.5.
I mean, we don't necessarily know if Denver's good though. They've played They've played two very bad teams to start the season, and their defenses looked really good. Their offense, you obviously lost Judy, and they didn't necessarily do much through the air last week. I mean, it was.
Oh, come on. Teddy Bridgewater, 26 of 34 for 328 and 2 scores.
All right, maybe they did.
Cortland Sutton, 9 for $159.
All right, so Sutton turned it around. I was thinking of week 1. My apologies. It's just, is this in Denver or is it in New York? Did they stay in New York?
In Denver.
I mean, in Denver, Wilson's got, well, I guess Wilson might be used to the higher altitude being a BYU guy. I'm sure Utah is similar, elevation. Maybe not the same as Denver, but similar just for the region of the country that it's in. I can't trust the Jets until they actually do anything that looks competent. I have to go Denver. Fangio's going to eat them up on defense.
Even with that 10.5 number?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a game they could win by 14. Like accidentally. Like a late pick 6, something like that, where like they look like they're not going to cover. Oh, there's a strip sack and some dude's walking into the end zone, and we have a fat guy touchdown.
All right. The Seattle Seahawks head to Minnesota to take on the Minnesota Vikings, and Bovada has the Vikings +2 at home.
The Vikings have to be the most maddening team to be a fan of because they looked like they were so in control of that Arizona game early on, and then the wheels just fell off. They missed the potential winning field goal at the end. Like it's just bad news if you're a Vikings fan, left and right, and it's sad. It honestly is sad. If we're being fair to Vikings fans, and Seattle, they're Seattle. Like Russ is going to be fine. They gave the ball to Carson a lot last week. Lockett continues to be arguably one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL. Like that dude, pound for pound, he just finds ways to get open. He was able to run under Russ's deep ball. It's incredible. Like how little that guy gets talked about in terms of the production that he's able to put up. DK coming off, like you mentioned before, a quiet week. This is a pass-happy game, if you ask me. I have a feeling we'll see a lot of Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen touchdowns.
KJ Osborne.
Yeah. Well, again, they both have guys like that, right? Those weird random 3rd and 4th wide receivers that for some reason always seem to score. Like it doesn't. You have no idea. Well, how if I could guess, Freddie Swain has like 20 career touchdowns in 22 career games. That guy catches a touchdown pass from Russ like every week. It makes no sense with all the other talent that's on that team. But I like Seattle in this game. I think this is just a weird year for Minnesota, or at least a very tough start with, you're getting 2 AFC West teams in the first 2 weeks of the season after losing that tough opening week game against the Bengals. To me it feels like a Seattle game all day.
All right, Tom Brady and those Tampa Bay Buccaneers head to Los Angeles to take on Matt Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams. Bovada has the Rams +1.5 at home.
Dude, Gronk is like the ageless wonder all of a sudden. He retired for a season, came back last year, and was like, in the regular season. And now this dude just catches 2 touchdown passes a week. Like, that's just, Tom finds him and he gets it to him, and that's just the ballgame. Like, it makes no sense how he's able to do this and how he still looks as good. Atlanta's defense was terrible, and we kind of covered that. Tom still somehow looks unbelievable at quarterback. Like, wasn't there points of like the last 2 years where Tom's arm looked like it was like falling off. He wasn't making all the throws, and now all of a sudden it's like everything looks pretty good.
I heard a stat the other day from Alexa that Tom Brady is 14 touchdowns away from throwing more touchdowns in his 40s than he did in his 20s.
I mean, the game certainly changed in terms of philosophy,
but that's nuts.
Well, it's absolutely insane. It's almost unfathomable that could be a thing. There was a record stat that I saw of him, and like he literally has an almost identical record from like the first 10 years to the second 10 years or 8 years, whatever it is. Like this dude is just the most consistent guy of all time. It doesn't make and well consistently great. Like that's the part that's so wild.
Right.
He's consistently as high level can be, and like the Bucs are good. They've had some defensive injuries, which will probably worry you, especially against a Rams team that has a good offense. But I expect a little bit of a shootout in this game, which is tough to say because the Rams defense is very good and has a lot of big name talent on it. But this should be a really fun one. More touchdowns for Cooper Kupp than anyone could ever ask for.
For sure. Aaron Rodgers and those Green Bay Packers head to San Francisco to take on the San Francisco 49ers. Bovada has the 49ers minus 3.5 at home.
Do the 49ers have to sign more running backs? Like they're injury bug bitten again, but this time at a particular position. Like they also didn't look that great against the Eagles. Like did it sort of turn as the game went on? And defensively, they were able to figure it out and dial it in? Sure. Were they able to out-coach a rookie head coach? Yeah, they absolutely were.
Sirianni out-coached himself.
Well, possibly, sure. But I just think that the 49ers did not look like a team that put up 41 the week before on the Detroit Lions. And the Packers are the complete opposite. They looked like a well-oiled machine last night. So I think that we're going to get a very good game out of these two, but I don't necessarily. I think this is a game that the Packers can win if their defense can literally do anything. All they have to do is be able to stop the run, force Jimmy G to have to throw the ball, and I think the Packers have a shot.
Yeah, so last week the Browns and the Eagles played at the same time. And that means I was watching the Eagles game without sound. And I just don't ever have a good feel for the game if I'm watching it without sound.
I could see that. I mean, you kind of need the commentary to give the flow of what's going on. But to me, is this the Sunday night game?
This is the Sunday night game.
Yeah. And to me, I think that this, like, you're going to learn a lot more about what the 49ers actually are, and then also the Packers. Like this is a real sort of prove it game for both of them. If you have real conference championship aspirations, this is a game you kind of have to win if you're either of these teams. 49ers have kind of had a cupcake schedule. I mean, the Eagles gave them a little bit more of a test than I think anybody really expected. But to me, they need to come out and show something against the Packers, because I think the Packers' purpose, not the Packers as a whole, but I think Rodgers kind of lollygagged it in week 1, and then we saw what he could do again, Monday night.
What's frustrating is that if Rager isn't pushed out of bounds, and if Quez just runs away from that defender, and I know, look, that was the fastest anyone ran with the ball in week 2, 22.1 something miles per hour, and it's an angles game. But if those two things just happen, the Eagles win the game.
I mean, it should have been at minimum 13-0, and then in like the best case scenario, 17-0.
Yeah, like, 17-3, I think.
17-3, fine. But it should have been at least that, and instead it wasn't. And those are the breaks in football. Those are the growing pains with a rookie head coach, that are just going to happen, unfortunately. And I'm a guy that lives and dies with the Eagles, which I don't know what is the line for Monday night now that we're kind of here.
Well, the Philadelphia Eagles head to Dallas to take on the Dallas Cowboys, and Bovada has the Cowboys -4 at home.
Screams Eagles to me. Maybe because I just love betting on the Eagles no matter what, but
that can only go bad.
No, always. Unless they win. But in a situation like this, like Sirianni is going to make mistakes. That's why a guy somebody who lives and dies, like I said, with the Eagles in terms of like my enjoyment of NFL Sunday, last week was not one of those games where they lost, and I was like, God, like, you know, really kind of upset about it. It was like, yeah, those are games that first-year starters at quarterback and rookie head coaches, those are games they're going to lose. It's just, that's the way it is. That's how they're going to lose games. Dumb, stupid, little things that are fixable and adjustable, and you learn from those. It's sort of a step back to hopefully take a couple steps forward in the very near future. So if I'm an Eagles fan, I'm looking at that game as a positive. Whereas, you know, maybe if it's a different quarterback, if it's a different head coach combination, you lose that game and it's a very depressing situation. You're like, how did we give that game away? I don't know. I still have a lot of faith in this team, and that's why Monday night's huge, because I think Dallas is. I think the division is a 2-team race with Dallas with a significant advantage, mainly because of their offense. Their offense is a well-oiled machine. Tony Pollard looked great spelling Zeke over the weekend. I like what can you say about their receiving core? Like they're great.
You can say it's banged up.
Well, it is definitely injured. It's definitely injured. Gallup, obviously, and then Cooper with some bruised ribs. Like there is some serious problems there in terms of longevity. But like right now, that was a gritty win against the Chargers team that did give the ball away or give the game away a little bit to them. But they have their struggles on defense, just like the Eagles have their struggles on offense. It's sort of two teams on opposite sides of the spectrum, whereas the Cowboys' offense is their best aspect, and the defense is where the Eagles have lived. And both sides have suffered, you know, some pretty significant losses. One probably the most significant, Brandon Graham, for the Eagles. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a really fun Monday night game. I love the Eagles-Cowboys rivalry. I think it's great. I love that they try to always put at least one of them in prime time every year. It's interesting that it's this early in the season, but I think you're going to learn a lot about where this NFC East divisional race is going to go with this game. So, Birds money line always.
Well, right now the Eagles are picking 5, 9, and 13 in the draft.
I'll take 5, 9, and 22 all day.
Why not 1 out and 32?
I mean, yeah, I would take 32 as well, because that means I get to watch.
What does 22 get you? So they lose in the wild card?
Yeah, Chris, but you made the playoffs.
Oh, if you're going to make the playoffs, let's at least win a game.
Well, sure, of course, that is the old, like, yes, you do want to win a game, but I enjoy making the playoffs and the aspect of being able to look forward to a playoff football game. You get that whole week of build up. It's like the anxiety, the nervousness leading up to kickoff, having to sprint out of whatever random intramural basketball league you're reffing because the game starts in 20 minutes. Like those are the kind of things that are just so awesome about the NFL. The NFL is just great. Like I know football has its issues and everything like that, but like there is nothing like the NFL. I love college football, but there is just nothing like the NFL at all.
And on that note, that's it for this week's episode of You're Wrong and Here's Why. For Greg Crone, I'm Chris Horwoodell. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here next week.